Welcome, welcome. The sound of the steamer, that means we're ready to start our sew along. Yay, sew alongs. So this is just going to be a fun little hour. We're just going to answer some questions that you have. We're sewing 822, and I'm going to show you a couple versions that I've done. I just love this top. I love it. First off, the versatility of it. Obviously, the top you can wear by itself. The cardigan you could wear by itself. It doesn't have to be 2 layers. There's just so many options with it. I just felt like it gave a great little bundle of patterns. So 822 is a dual top and reversible cardigan. We're going to show you how to do that today. Everything's in the directions. You certainly don't need to watch. My goal was to just kind of highlight some questions that I had gotten since the pattern came out so that we could just have more fun with it. That's really the goal. It fits beautifully. It's a French dart. The base is the sweater set, $195. This is a PBS pattern, so remember it's tax deductible if you decide. And today we're going to do a little fundraiser for PBS. We found that if we have several fundraisers throughout the year, that maybe it'll be a little gentler when it comes time to film. So that's our goal, 822. All right, so I want to show you just for a minute before we get started the ones I did, because I just think there's so many fun options. This one I did a while ago. You've seen this when this was with a a tie-dye, which is so popular right now, and then just a white. And then this one I did for spring. Just thought it was really pretty. I actually put the pattern numbers right here in the front so you can see them. The ribbing is 6174, and then the pink is 6176. Now with this, keep in mind this is a shawl collar, and a shawl collar is typically not a stripe. So when I did this ribbing, what I did is I turned the ribbing this way. The ribbing goes horizontal as opposed to vertical so that it doesn't go through the shawl collar of the neckline. But you'll see that, in every case I did this fun little, I love this neckline. And the one I have on is on the cover. Today what we're going to do is I did, and I'll show you what I did and why I did this. I really wanted to, I'm always time conscious, not just my time, but your time, and how much you want to watch and what you want to get out of it. So I just felt really confident you didn't need to see me sewing French darts again. So I went ahead and sewed that with a shoulder seam. And that's when I stopped. I sewed the French dart, I sewed the shoulder seam together, and it's ready for the neckline. So that's what we're going to pick up. But what I wanted to show you, what we're going to do today is, as far as fabric choices go, I was in Neiman's a couple days ago, and there was a Brunello Cucinelli outfit, and I know y'all know that name from me saying it, but it's very high-end, and it had a little lace piece over a knit. And it was just a really simple little lace piece. But that lace piece was $2,000. What it was over was, $1,500. I added up the outfit was $10,000. So it made me start thinking, how can we use lace in just a little bit? So what I decided to do with this is I'm using the lace, and the fabric numbers are on the screen, over, so this is the overlay, just the lace. And then just to kind of keep things simple, what I decided to do is take the base layer, and I did the cardigan. And even though it's reversible, I'm doing 2 of the same. So instead of having to be different colors, it's going to be one color. The cardigan itself is going to be one color, but it's all lined and it's all reversible. So that's the look I'm going for. And I think the most thing that I really wanted you to see is how much fun you could have with it, and how a little tiny fabric, especially like this piece right here, this is a knit, but it wouldn't have to be a knit. It could be a woven because it's just the tank top portion. So there's really a lot that you could do with that. But first we're going to focus on the neckline. We're going to answer your questions as we go along. And we're going to have just a little bit of steaming fun, okay? Is this a fit to stitch pattern for this year? I'm sure I probably have it. It's the fit to stitch pattern that went with series 11 is what it is. So it's the series 11 companion. If you ordered series 11 as a pre-sale, remember if you order the pre-sale, we add the pattern in free. And then later if you, we just put it in as a normal pattern, as a regular pattern, okay? Okay, good. Let's get started. Okay. And it's Friday, and whenever it's Friday, everything acts up. Computers, sewing machines, cameras, everything acts up, but we'll do our best to make sure it's all working right. All right, so we're going to look at the very first column. And on the very first column, what I see, and hopefully at home you have your pattern out and you have that guide sheet, because I don't know that you can see our guide sheets on there, and they're not really meant to, as much as I want you to be able to look at your guide sheet and kind of see where we're going. So if you notice the first one, what you're doing is you're doing French darts and shoulder seams, which is what this is, French dart and shoulder seams. Keep in mind that when you're making this, you're making 2 tops and 2 cardigans. The yardage on the back is for 1 top and 1 cardigan. And the reason we did that are many, but we decided at the end of the day, it's much better off for you to know singly what it is. And then if you want to do the 2 layers, you double. Because there's so many options of fabrics, and fabric this, and fabric 1, and fabric 2, and fabric 3. You could have 4 fabrics if you wanted to, that it's just impossible to list them all in the back. So the yardage on the back is for 1 top and 1 cardigan, and then you can decide how else you want to do it. Double the yardage if you're going to do it how I'm doing it. Okay, so having said that, we're going to go ahead and go to the second column, because now when I say do the French darts, that's on 4 pieces. So you're making 2, 4, 6, you're making 8 French darts. All right, and then actually that is, sorry, I kind of messed up on that. That's actually this piece right here. You start with all of them. But the very next column that we're on now is this overlay. And you finish it. You finish the neck edge, which is just by serging and turning, or however method you want. You do the side seams, which you can see. And then you can do the armholes however you want, and you can hem it however you want. Because this is a lace, I decided I just wanted to let it go. I didn't want to finish it at all. I'm just going to leave it plain. And then you can see that at the middle of that column that we're on, that's when we're going to do the neck edge. Okay, so the main reason I did this is there's a couple things that I really wanted to focus on that I felt like were more important than you seeing me sew French darts. I love French darts. You all know I sew them well. you sew them well. But the main thing is I really wanted to focus on this neckline, the knits, the reversible aspect, and I wanted to be able to have the detail and the time to be able to do that. A couple weeks ago, I put up a YouTube, and the YouTube was on knits and how they curl and what side they curl to and all of those variables. So this light blue, this fabric that we have, which we have the fabric number up at the bottom, it's 100% cotton, has a beautiful curl to it. Just a lovely little curl. So it's going to be a great little neckline. And when I go to decide what fabric I'm going to do when I'm making this top, I have a tendency to make sure that it gives me a curl that I like. Remember, we looked at knits that did not have a curl because the stitches were balanced from one side to another. And if we're looking at a knit like that, we've got to think twice. Is it going to make the kind of neckline that we really want? And, we can change up the neckline. We don't have to make it like that, but I want you to keep that in mind. Now, because this knit curls to the right side, the directions say put right sides together. So we're not going to do that because when the neckline curls, and I'm going to kind of show you up here, you can't really see on that one. When the neckline curls, I don't want that neckline, the back side of the curl is what's going to show. Now you can reverse that, but then I want you to just think about this. This is all design, how you do it, why you're doing it, but you want to make sure that the curl is on the inside as it curls. So I'm going to put on this particular case wrong sides together, and I'm going to stitch that edge, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to start with that neckline. It's at the second column, and it's at the bottom of the second column. And when I put the wrong sides together and the curl starts to happen to the inside, once this piece curls, I won't even see the wrong side, and that's the goal. Okay, so there I've got it easy said, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quarter this band. And so just fold it in half, put a pin up at the top, put the pin and the seam together, and put a pin on each end. Quarter it. Divide into force. Everybody's okay with that, correct? Easy enough. I'm going to divide the neckline now into force, and I'm going to pull to sew the neckband on. Now remember, I have purposely left, now when I say divide by force, this is your starting point. The left neck edge is where the seams always align. So the left neck edge is your starting point. I divide that in half, I put a pin, and then I put those two together. You can see there. And then I put those quarters. Now I've got the neckline quartered with the left shoulder seam being at my point of beginning. And I'm ready to sew the neckband in place. Everybody okay with that? Okay, now I go back to my directions. And I'm going to put the seam of this band, and it says on your directions, I'm going to stitch right side of band to right side of top. Hang on a second, I just got to get this manipulated to where it's going to be what I want it to be. So this is what I want to spend a minute on. If I put right sides together, I turn that to the inside, the band is going to curl that way. So that's my concern, is you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to put the right side of the band against the right side of the top in this case, and notice that seam allowance is down. Then when it's going to curl in, and that's what I want. So it's not rocket science, but just play with it for a minute. Just to make sure by the time you stitch it and get the curl the way you want it, you don't have to unpick anything. But when you're dealing with the curls, so for me, this is the right side of the band on the right side of the top. And I'm going to pin that first mark. And then I'm going to take the second one and I'm going to pull the two pins together. You don't need to pull anything right now, just put the marks together. And then I'm going to go to the third one. And again, I want in my case, I'm putting the right side of the band against the right side of the top. And if you want to kind of see if you've got it the right length, keep in mind that all knits are going to pull and all knits are going to curl just a little bit differently. And so when they're making ready to wear and they're doing 10,000 tops at one time, they don't mind spending, the time to get this right. But when we're only doing one of that particular fabric, we want to make sure we get it right. So what I can do is I can kind of pull that and I can see that my fabric is curling in, and that's exactly what I want it to do. So just kind of pull a little section and say, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. And then I'm ready to stitch the band on. I actually am doing everything on a sewing machine here today, but I just did that for ease. You could serge this, or you could do it on the machine. There's not a right and a wrong on this. Now I'm going to do it on the machine, and I'll show you it doesn't make a difference. Okay, we're okay with questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and stitch this all the way around. It doesn't matter which side you have up. We're just going to get aligned. I'm actually sewing from the inside of my neck edge, but it doesn't make any difference. Just get it started, and then I'm going to pull to the next section. Now when you pull, you do want to get those edges lined up together. All right, then I'm just going to keep going. Now you've got this little V that's in the front. Just straighten out that V. I'll show you when I'm there. Just straighten it as if it were a straight line and just keep going. I got to tell you, I love this neckline. I love it. I've used it on numerous different tops in kind of different ways. Get creative with it. It's a lot of fun. Do you have right sides together? So what's so unusual about that? It's a great question, you guys. I just can always count on you to be so just frank and honest. It's not unusual to put right sides together. But if I were to tell you just on all knits, on all neckline bands, you put right sides together, there's going to be a time where that band curls, where that knit curls to the wrong side, and the curl isn't going to go the way you wanted it to go. So I put right sides together because the fabric is curling to the right side. The knit is curling to the right side. But if it's not, then you can't put right sides together. So what I'm trying to say is you can't do that every time and get the same result. It's kind of the best way I know how to say that. So I wanted to really spend some time on this because I think that this neckline is a big way, it's a big look of this top. And I think it's really, really good looking. And so I want to make sure that you get it right the first time and you don't have to keep taking this thing off and on. Okay, I've gotten to my next pin. This is just a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I am going to show you that on this particular one, I'm going to have the curl. Well, I'll show you, and then I won't say anything. I'll just show you. How's that? And keep in mind, your band is always going to be shorter than your neckline. And what I did is when I kind of stretched it, I wanted to see what we know about knits is they don't always stretch alike. And so it's possible that you have to make that neckband, that you have to adjust the length just, you know, to get it to the right curl amount. Okay, so I'm going to show you this so that you can see what I'm doing here. And you can see that there's the band. And here's my seam allowance. Remember I said that that seam allowance now, as it curls out, that seam itself, that was the seam allowance of the band that I put wrong sides together. See, that's actually going to be under the curl. Let me cut these threads so that they don't show. And that's what I wanted. That was the first thing that I showed you. I think if you haven't made the top, you could be going like, what are you putting so much emphasis on this for? But it's because I don't want it to curl like this and have the seam allowances out, and it'll look really ugly. Now, I just wanted to show you this so you can see that there's the right side of the band to the right side of the shirt, but if you look at the curl is the wrong side. It's the wrong side of the fabric that's curling. I'm fine with that, but just be aware that that might happen. Okay, and that's what it's going to look like. Isn't that, it's just the cutest neckline. Now, the next thing you're going to do, which is at the bottom of this same column, is I'm actually going to take the seam which I just sewed, which I'm going to peek under here, and I think you can see that, is this seam right here. You see that? You want to put that out? Yeah, thanks. This seam right here, I'm going to push it out away from the neck edge, and I'm going to stitch that down. So I'm going to do a little edge stitch all the way around to keep the seam that I just stitched under. Okay, pick a mark on your feed dogs and just go all the way around. And keep that seam underneath. So my seam that I just did is on this side. And I'm using my foot to just kind of keep those in place. Okay, and then I'm going to press it just here in a minute, but I want you to see. This fabric is just stunningly beautiful. It, you know, I've always said it. I love the feel of fabrics and I love the look of fabrics, but man, the way they sew makes a big difference to me. And so many times when you've got this beautiful, there's 100% cotton, it just sews absolutely beautifully. It's such a pleasure to work with. Okay, we're almost back up. So you can see that even when I came to the V, just not a big deal. Then I overstitch when I come back, and I'm good to go, and I've got that whole thing done. I'm going to clip my threads, and I want to show you the difference. Now remember, you could have serged that seam originally, and I think if you have a serger, I think it's better to serge it. And the reason I think it's better to serge it is it gives it a little bit of weight, and that weight is a positive. So you can see now my understitching is all there. Now my collar is going to curl. And I'm going to stitch it down in 3 places to keep the curl, I don't know, kind of regulated. And those are the 2 shoulder seams and at the center front. And again, this is completely optional too. I'm just trying to show you the look of this particular collar. And also what it will do, we'll get a close-up here in just a minute, is it will kind of, I don't know what's the best way to say this, kind of regulate the curl. Instead of the curl curling too much, because sometimes when you pull a knit and it like really rolls on the edge, this will keep the curl, by stitching in those couple places, it keeps the curl not from over curling. That's a crazy way to say that. That just looks so pretty. And again, when it's flat, you can see that because it's flat, it's so much easier to iron, to handle. So don't do the side seams. You know, the order there is purposeful. Don't do the side seams another way. Okay, so there you go. And that's my neckline. It's just really cool. It's a really cool raw neckline. Okay with that? Would you not press the seam open to reduce bulk, to make it easier to stitch the neck edge? No. You can try it, but no. The answer is no. Okay. So now what I do is I would stitch the side seams. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to attach these 2. I would stitch the side seams, I would stitch the armholes, I would finish this top, I would finish this top, and the next column will show you this. And the only place I adhere these 2 together are the shoulder seams. And I'm going to take it right through the shoulder seams. And I'm literally going to stitch, not the necklines, line up the edge of the shoulders, line up the edge of the sleeves, the armholes, I guess is the better way to say that. And right there, vertical, right along the seam, sew that together and line up the edge of the armholes here too. Your neck's going to be a little bit wider, and stitch right through there. So I'm going to put this on a hanger. So what you're going to see is that's my top. It's stitched, 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 just put little vertical stitches there, and there it goes. I just love this. I think it's so pretty. I think it's such a great use of lace, and again, I don't have that picture of Brunella Cucinelli, but this Tuesday night is our webcast, and it's on spring dressing, and I want to talk about this layering with this lace stuff, and I'll have that picture so that you can see it. It's beautiful, but that is my base. Okay, we're okay with that. And that neckline, I just wanted to spend some time doing that neckline. Would you not press this? Oh, we did this. I think we would do this. That's okay. Okay, so we've got that. When you say 100% cotton, is there also spandex? No, 100% means 100%. A spandex would be a cotton poly blend. If it has 2% spandex, I'll say a cotton poly blend. This is 100%. So what that means is when it burns 100% clean. There's nothing else in that fabric except for what it is. And knits can be 100% cotton all the time. We have quite a few of them. Okay, are we good? Okay, so let's go to the next column. And what we do in the next column, it's that third column, is we start on the cardigan body. And when we start on the cardigan body, we're making 2 of them in our different fabrics. Remember, on this particular one, I am making the same. I'm using the same fabric on both sides. And so I go, I did the same thing twice. I sewed the center back seam. I've already done the French darts. That was on the first step. I sewed the shoulder seam. I set in the sleeve. I pressed it, and I sewed the side seams. Now, the reason I did this is because I wanted to focus today on making it reversible and how to do that rather than doing the stuff that I felt like you already know how to do. Not that you don't know how to make it reversible. So that next column, that third column, is doing all that stuff I just talked about, okay? And so you end up with 2 units like this. If you're doing different colors, then they're going to be different colors. But because I wanted to do the same color, and this is the first time I've done it. I've always done a different color, but I thought, wouldn't that be cool? And I felt like it would really highlight the lace. And I didn't want to do the lace on the inside. I just didn't think that would be the look I wanted. I really wanted to do just that splash of that little bit of lace there. And so I made 2 complete cardigans that were the same exact. Same fabric, same color, same everything. And you're going to do right sides together, and I've pressed both of them. And we're just going to start stitching. And so the 4th column is when you set in the sleeves. We're going to jump to the 5th column because that's now when we're doing the cardigan, when we're making it reversible. And I'm going to give you several ways to make it. So we're going to be on number 5, on picture number 5. There's several ways to do this. So I want you to do the way that's sewing wise comfortable for you, because it won't make a difference however you decide to do it. I think it's just different skill sets, different cutting levels, all that kind of stuff. Recognize that you could, if you wanted to, on a cardigan, once you had it finished, all you've got now is the edges. You could go through and just serge the edges, turn them under, and top stitch, and that would be just fine. You don't need to make it reversible. Just because it can be that way, it doesn't mean you have to do that. I'm going to show you how to make it reversible. And so the first step is at the top of the 5th column. You're going to put the sides together, put right sides together of the whole cardigan. And I'm going to start stitching up the front. So I'm stitching 2 fronts together, and I'm going to go all the way around the neck edge. All the way around that front neck edge is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to sew a 3/8 seam allowance. Now, I probably would recommend you do some pinning. I'm not pinning. I'm not really sure why. This fabric handles so beautifully. But y'all know if I get in trouble, I'm going to be really mad at myself, huh? But anyway, I've got it pinned at center back, and I can kind of hold it up and see that they're just kind of laying there together. Okay, okay, we're okay with questions. How's everybody doing? Friday afternoon? Getting ready to sew? Getting ready for the weekend? We just finished up the workshop here in Dallas, you guys, and I love these workshops. If there's a workshop around you, get into it. It's just so much fun. You all are so much fun. All right, so just right here, my seam allowances are open, and I want to make sure that when I'm sewing right sides together, that they're laying correctly. So I went ahead and just sewed right through them, but I made sure they were open and flat. Okay, so I'm on the other side, and again, I'm just going to kind of look ahead and make sure that I'm not pulling anything or that it's a one-to-one. When I first cut it, and even if it's a different color, when I use that piece that I've cut to cut out the different color, I think it's a little more accurate than to use the pattern piece twice. All right, so it looks like everything's going okay here. I'm coming up going down the stretch. All right, when I get to the bottom, I'm going to sew off. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to work on the hem. And you can see on that very same picture, if you've got your guide, I'm going to sew the bottoms together. And I'm going to sew from the front to the side seam. I'm going to overstitch that corner. You do not have to do it this way. You could tuck it up. The negative of doing it this way is if one piece is shorter than another, it will pull up at the back hem. So it's really important that you cut them the same and that you're sewing them the same. And then they'll lay the same. But if you're not sure on that, you know, you may not want to do this portion. This is a little more exact. It doesn't mean that, you know, you have to do it this way. So what I'm doing is I'm sewing from the center front to the side seam. I'm just going to secure that in, and then I'm going to do it on the other side also. Where I started stitching on the other side, I'm going to take that front and I'm going to stitch together to the side. Now I'm keeping all the edges even. I'm assuming that if I keep all the edges even, it will turn just exact. It's a lot of assumption, isn't it? Because we know we don't cut exactly accurately, but there's so little, because this cardigan is one body, there's so little places that you could really screw up. So it's kind of easy. This is a really easy pattern to make reversible. And I go just past the side seam just so that when I go to reverse it, it won't pull the side seams and pull them apart. All right, so that's what I've done. I've done that top picture. All right, so now we're going to do the sleeves, and I'm going to give you a couple ways to do the sleeves. Do you prefer to sew both pieces together rather than serge? So in my brain, serging is only going to show. Anytime you use serging, it should be showing. And because this whole thing is inverted and it's on the inside, in the industry, serging would be a waste of thread. However, having said that, it's your top, it's your garment. If you like to serge knowing it's going to be on the inside, it's never going to show, and you want to do that, that's your call. The advantage of serging is that when you go to turn this now, you've got a little bit of weightier seam, and it actually has a tendency to press a little better. But the negative is it will have a tendency to have like a line. Now I didn't serge any of these, but it'll be heavy. So if you're using lighter weight knits, it'll have a tendency to really have a bump underneath as opposed to being smoother. So your call, just know the difference. Serging is a finishing method, and this is not needed to be finished because the whole thing's going to be on the inside. Okay? Okay. So having said that, I'm going to fold the corner and fold the corner, just like we do on lots of other garments we do. I'm going to reach to the inside, and I'm going to hold the corner. We're at the very bottom of the cardigan is where I am. It shows this again in the guide sheets. It shows to fold. And I'm going to put that corner in because I'm going to get a nice sharp fold. Okay? I think I'm going to do that under the camera on the other side just so you can see it a little bit better. Here it is. This is the bottom of the cardigan where I came down, and this is the hem of the cardigan. So I'm going to fold on that line. It doesn't matter which one first. I'm going to fold on that seam line. We've done this many times in many cases. I'm going to reach in with my forefinger. I'm going to hold it with my thumb. I'm going to invert it to the outside, and you see what a beautiful sharp corner I get. Okay, very easily done, no pressing, you know, just gorgeous. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to take the two cardigans, because recognize they're one, they're together now. I'm going to come to, I've got a thread there, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to push the sleeves down, you know, I'm going to push one sleeve down the sleeve of the other one. And you're going to want to do this no matter what method you use. I'm going to give you two different methods to use to do this. Now, I serged the bottom of this cardigan for that exact reason that I was just telling you. I want a little bit of weight at the bottom. I want there to be the little bit of weight. And that serged edge will give you that, and it helps handle it a little bit better. So I went ahead and did that, and especially at the bottom of the sleeve or at the bottom of the cardigan. I don't know about if I'd do the front, but use the thread and that extra thread to your advantage. All right, so step number one I could do, and I think it's how we did it. We did it in the directions, is we told you just to tuck this under. You're going to put right sides together, wrong sides together, then the right sides come together, and all I'm going to do is stitch the circle. I'm going to show you another way, and I'm going to put a pin. The wrong sides are together, and now we do this in our lining of our jackets. So let me just make sure we understand where we're at. I've got the sleeve down the sleeve of the cardigan. I'm going to do both of them so that we can kind of see this twice. Here's my cardigan. You guys, I have to admit, I love this cardigan. I love this pattern. I love the duality of these fabrics. And if you make it and if you wear it, it is so soft. It's just amazing how, but a lot of our fabrics, a lot of our knits are thin. And it's a great way to take a thin knit, but yet just make it more, I don't know. I just love it. I just love it. Love the feel, love everything. Okay, so I'm going to put those together. And again, I've pushed one sleeve all the way down the other. And when I get to the bottom, I've got a pin there. So you can see they're the same circumference. Once you do that, make sure that you put your arm down there, because if you don't, that one sleeve can be twisted on the inside. And if it's twisted, in other words, if the seams are lined up just 360 opposite from one another, you won't be able to get your arm down the sleeve. So there I have it. You can see that it's, there's the two fronts sewn together. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've got that pinned. I'm going to reach in through the hem, through the open bottom, and just start to pull on one of the sleeves. It doesn't matter which one, because you're going to pull them out. And somebody said to me, it's like two elephants kissing. I don't care how you remember it, but if that helps you, there you go. The wrong sides are pinned together. I'm going to keep the alignment there, and I'm going to take out the pin and put the right sides together. Now, I'm always going to use the seam. Use the seam as a base. Keep the edges even. And you're going to sew the circle. And you're literally sewing that circle all the way around, and that's what we're going to do. On pattern envelope, back yardage states 2.5 yards. Is that for each piece? No. So 2.5 yards, you'll need double that if you're going to do 2.5 yards will do, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll repeat it. The 2.5 yards will give you a cardigan and a top. If you want double that, then you double that yardage. Okay? There's lots of variables for fabrics and how the top is done. So we just gave the cardigan and we gave the top, and then if you want a reversible, you're going to get double that. And that's just for the top. And we've done that on all the patterns, and so that was another reason we wanted to stay consistent. So for instance, if you look at the sweater set, anyway, we just wanted to stay consistent with how we had done it. Okay, so I went all the way around the circle, I'm back to the beginning, and I'm going to clip my threads there. So now what happens is I'm going to pull it back out, and in this particular case, either side could be correct. Just reach in, grab that, pull it out, and you can see that it hems itself. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it's just so pretty. It's just really pretty. I really prefer this way. And again, it's in all of our guide sheets that have jackets. We did it that way. So I'm going to push these both through. The only thing you have to be careful is that you make sure that when you're using the right color, is that the right color is out on both sides. Ah, I love this thing. Okay, there you go. So let's do it again. I'm going to lay it down, open the bottom. I've still got the bottom open. I don't want to seal the bottom up until the very end. And just pull on either sleeve. It doesn't matter which one. It'll lead the other one. Remember, they're pinned together. The wrong sides are pinned together. What I'm going to do is at the seam. So I'm going to take those wrong sides. I'm going to take out the pin, and I'm going to put the right sides together. Just don't twist. Don't do anything else. Just keep the sides together like they are. And we're going to sew the circle. And your right sides are together, and you're sewing all the way around. You okay? We appreciate y'all's patience. This was a last week thing that we were supposed to do, and the tornadoes came through and we lost power. We didn't just lose power, we lost internet. So the good news is, or the bad news is, we have to have more than power in order to do this. We got our power back that night, but we didn't get our internet back for a little bit. So we appreciate your patience. Okay, so I'm just going to go all the way around and back to where I started. Keep these edges even, because if they're not even, then one side will pull up more than the other side. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I've got actually the cardigan's reversible. I've got my sleeves sewn. I've got the bottom done. I'm almost done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish up the bottom. Now, when you all are pushing this out, it's a little confusing. So maybe not any midnight sewing, but other than that, it's pretty simple. It's really simple. So when you talked about serging those edges, serging can add a weight element to anything you're doing, because you're adding on all of that thread down at the bottom. So you can see the reason I did it here is because it really does make it much easier. And I don't mind if there's a little bit of a ridge. I didn't necessarily want that ridge when I was up the front. And so that's kind of what's going to be your determining factor if you have a serger, whether you want to use it or not. And you can see that seam is right there at the bottom. Okay, so the reason I'm saying that is I come to the inside now, and the very last step that I'm going to do is I'm going to invert these two layers, and I'm going to sew from side seam to side seam, and I'm going to close it up. And if you notice when I'm doing this, you can see that that fabric is just curling because it curls. So that's not a bad reason to kind of control, to maybe decide to serge something. You have a little bit more control over that curl. You can see that it's curling, it's curling. Now I could also come in, I'm going to put this on the ironing board here. You could just press it. You can press these two layers together, and the only thing you want to make sure of is that you're actually pressing up just a seam allowance, because that's all you sewed when you sewed the front to the side seam. So only do your 3/8 here again. And you can see that when you press it, it also holds off the curve. Then when you do it, you're just going to stitch between those two last seams. That's it. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Can't put it on because I've already got something on, but I love it. It's easy, it's fun, and I just have really, really had fun bringing you this pattern. I just hope you love it, and I hope you enjoy it. Don't try to make it too formal. I put this on purposely so you could see. It's kind of it kind of has a tendency to just be a little, I hate to say sloppy because that's not the word I want, but it has a tendency to just be a little sloppy. It's a t-shirt. It's kind of a really upscale casual look, And I know for many of us, you know, we go places, we don't want to be dressed up, but we want to just look really good and clean. And this is a great top to do that whole concept with. Okay? All right, so let's just answer a few questions, and I think we're good to go. And again, I really wanted to focus on those few things so that you could do them and know the options and do them well and have a lot of success when you're doing them. All right, how we doing? Are y'all sewing or are you just watching? I think I know the answer to that. You all tell me, well, we don't sew when you sew, we just watch. I can see that. I can see that. But you know, the amount of options that we have on this is really fun. Like, go to town with it. I love the lace. Here, I'll put this on so you can see the look. Look how cute this is. Is that adorable? Needs a little pressing, but oh, it's too cute. So that lace is really just kind of peeking out, which is, it just reminds me a lot of the outfit that I saw, the Brunella. I'll show it to you Tuesday night so that you can get a peek at it. You could, if you wanted to, you can come through and top stitch down here. You know, you could top stitch along the front. If you like the front to be a little heavier, you certainly could serge in there. I did not. You saw me sew it. And then just give it all a nice little press. It's pretty. It's so pretty. All right, what else? So we got in about 10 boxes today of fabrics, of beautiful, beautiful knits. And I really wanted to, so Tuesday night, along with we're going to do the simple sewing, the spring sewing, because I've got some great outfits I want to show you. I'm going to do a live fabric sale, but it's going to be really simple. I'm just going to choose like maybe 15 fabrics that all have the same price point. Knits, because it's knit. It's printed knits is what we got in. And that way we'll keep it simple, but it'll give you all an opportunity to kind of, you know, collect your knits and get them together. Printed knits are perfect for making this. And so we're going to put up some tomorrow, like we normally do, Saturday morning. But Tuesday night, I'm going to put together a collection. All right, so we'll have it'll be quick and easy and fast and down and dirty, but it'll give you all a little idea of how to bring some knits into play. Okay? Okay, can you show the finished blue lace again? Yes, I can. Happy to. I just love the combination together. I think it's so pretty. And I love this neckline. It gives depth. It's just pretty. How would you troubleshoot if sleeves don't lay right? We'll cut them at the same time. Again, that's why when I cut a sleeve, like I'm going to say this sleeve right here, when I cut this one, it's the same fabric, I used, you know, you cut it once, 2 layers, and then you cut it again. Use the piece you cut to cut the next one. Don't go back to the pattern. And that way, even if they're a little off, they're all a little bit off. They're the same length. You know, they should be fine. They should work really well. May I comment on fabric pictures on the web versus solo pattern site? The colors on the web, I think, are true colors. Okay. We think they're both true colors. With our monitors that we're using, we think they're both the exact same, but we know there's a discrepancy in, you know, in all kinds of things, to be quite honest. You know, you think about all the different cameras we use and all the different uploading we do. We think at the end, and the monitors we're using are the same ones to do all of that with, we think they come out the same. But I get that on your end, you know, you may not. We're really trying to do the purest job we can do, because we know those colors are really important for you to see. And so, you know, we'll just always check it. We'll always keep it in check, and we appreciate your comments, okay? The goal is for you to get fabric that you love at a really good price, that you have happy sewing. The goal is to have happy sewing. All right, the machine you talked about last night, how is it different from a cover stitch? It is a cover stitch. I'm going to wait till next week to comment on this. It only has one bottom looper and two upper. But you typically a cover stitch, I'm going to wait till next week. I'll have all the details, I'll have everything flushed out, and then we'll go into it next week. If I wanted to do this neckline on Geo Fit and Flare dress, how would you finish the bottom hem? Would it work? Absolutely, it would work, you guys. The only thing you've got to figure out is the ratio between the neckline and the piece. So the Geo Fit and Flare, if you took the exact neckline and put it on, that would work. And how would you finish the hem? I wouldn't change the hem. The hem down here is still finished just with a top stitch. Hems need weight. So weight and extra thread and serging is always good at the bottom of a sleeve or at the bottom of a hem. It's not as good when you're going up the front, because sometimes it can have a weighted look when you don't want it to have a weighted look. On the one I have on, because I used a dark and a light together, I didn't want to have a weighted look in there. I wanted it to look light, and a serging wouldn't have been appropriate for something like this going up the front. So just be mindful of that. Kind of think it all the way through and go from there. Could you do this on most any neck? Yes, that's why I wanted to show it to you. It's a great raw edge finish that I think is so contemporary and so classic, you can do it on anything. All right? So 822 is the name of the pattern. It's on the Fit to Stitch site. It is not on Silhouette Patterns. You've got to go to fittostitch.com, hit Patterns, and it'll be down toward the bottom. They're in numeric order. And you all know we just so much need and appreciate your support. And thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And the goal is happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns. See you on Tuesday. Bye.